So can everybody hear me out there?
Yes, Bhante, we can hear you, we can see you, everything is good.
All right. So Nisanka, I saw your email communication with that Venerable Amasiri at Tisarana.
Yes. So it looks like
everything is okay with that. You can stay there while I'm there, those couple days, right?
I think Ajanvi is going to be around that time.
Oh, he'll be back from Thailand?
He's going after that, I think.
Going after that, okay.
I think.
That'd be nice, because I always like to meet him. Yeah, time's coming up soon already.
Yes.
Okay, friends, we'll go ahead and start with reciting Namo Tassa and the three refuges for those who like to join. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa.
Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Buddhang Saranam Gacchami, Dhammang Saranam Gacchami, Sanghang Saranam Gacchami, Dutiyampi Buddhang Saranam Gacchami, Dutiyampi Dhammang Saranam Gacchami, Dutiyampi Sanghang Saranam Gacchami, Tatiyampi Buddhang Saranam Gacchami, Tatiyampi Dhammang Saranam Gacchami, Tatiyampi Sanghang Saranam Gacchami. Welcome everybody to this Wednesday evening's Dhamma discussion and meditation practice. So I hope you're all able to read that the Vitakana Santana Sutta that I sent out on Monday on the removal of the distracting thoughts, because this is a very important aspect of meditation. Because along with sleepiness, distracting thoughts are probably the most common of the hindrances that people encounter when they practice meditation. And not only beginners, but even people who are meditating for long times, they still have, to some degree, distracting thoughts coming up. And it's very easy to get carried away and lost in our various thoughts. So these are the Buddha's instructions on how to deal with especially the distracting thoughts that come up in meditation. So I'm just going to read the first introduction to this sutta. And, the Buddha is saying
monks, when a monk is pursuing the higher mind, from time to time, he should give attention to 5 signs. So this sentence, when the person is pursuing the higher mind. Now, what is the higher mind? Well, the higher mind means the stages of concentration. The first jhana and even any of the first 4 jhanas, but let's say even the first jhana, or even as you start to approach the first jhana, when the hindrances, get sort of suppressed or kind of go to sleep. So that's, we've mentioned already the hindrances. Sleepiness is the worst one, but the wandering mind is probably the most common one, because you're not always necessarily falling to sleep in the meditation, or you can, take a few breaths and you can come back and kind of hopefully, or you can stand up, and hopefully overcome the sleepiness. But the wandering thoughts, which include, for those that you're familiar with the 5 hindrances, which include sense desire, doubts, and restlessness and worry, all of those 3 basically are different types of thoughts. Now, and then the Buddha goes on to say, when a person is giving attention to some sign, and owing to that sign, there arise in him or her evil, unwholesome thoughts connected with desire, or thoughts connected with anger or hatred, or thoughts connected with delusion. And delusion means entertaining various, erroneous theories, and also clinging to the sense of I, me, or mine. Clinging to that strongly and identifying with it. That is also part of a delusion, deluded thought, because ultimately that sense of self and I is an illusion. So he says, giving attention to some sign. So what is a sign? Somebody sent in a question about the sign. What is the meaning when he says paying attention to a sign? Now, basically, the sign is what the sensory contact, whenever we hear something, smell something, taste something, see something, or feel something, again, it produces a feeling, a pleasant feeling or a painful feeling. And so we start paying attention to that. So the sign really is a pleasurable sensation gotten through something that you're maybe seeing. Maybe you see a picture of some good-looking person, or let's say, or some other thing, a beautiful sunset, or something that generates some attraction to the mind or desire. That is the sign. It's called the mark or sign of beauty. And so we're attracted, the mind is naturally attracted to the sign of beauty. And that means just a pleasurable feeling, basically. So it could be a sound. You hear a nice voice or a sound of your favorite music or something. And so it's something that attracts the mind. You want to continue to listen or look at that sign, or maybe it's a smell from a bakery and you get attracted to that. So basically the sign is any pleasurable feeling that arises that the mind gets attracted to, because thinking it's something good, something nice, something that you want to get closer to have, to consume. So this is basically what it is meaning. We give attention to some sign, and because of that attention, there arise evil, unwholesome thoughts connected with desire, hate, and delusion. So basically it's meaning that anything that you have attachments to and desires. And it can even be your own thoughts, like a fantasy. You're creating some thoughts in your mind, a desire for something in the future, or a fantasy, and you get attracted to that fantasy, and then it might produce lust or other kinds of unskillful thoughts. But also, that sign could also be a sign of aversion too, because both desire and aversion create, extra proliferating thoughts in our mind that we think of. So you're recalling some person that insulted you or hurt you in some way. So you're fixing on that sign of that bad person, or that bad smell, or that bad visual. Let's say you see an animal run over, guts splattered all over the road when you're driving down, or and that's aversion. You want to look away. Ugh. So that also creates maybe some additional thoughts. So, and it's the thoughts that we start thinking about these things that take us away from our meditation subject or our meditation object, such as the breathing or the flow of the present moment. It draws us out to start thinking about the past or the future. So now, when that first happens, this is where mindfulness is important. Now, he talks about the five ways of removing distracting thoughts, but actually I add a sixth one. Actually, it's the first one. So whenever you start to get distracted, like, when thoughts are arising, then mindfulness, that's why the importance of mindfulness. We have to be aware, thinking is arising now. That's why being grounded deeply in the body in the present moment allows you to have your attention at a deeper level where thoughts are just starting to come up. And as they start to come up, you can make that little note of thinking. And it creates some distance to the thought. And in fact, that's why I recommend all the time to, try to feel the outline of the sitting body. Because to feel the outline of the sitting body is a lot easier to notice your thoughts that are much subtler. So as you're able to hold that awareness of the sitting body, when a thought arises, it's like, you've already been watching the body sitting. Now, when a thought arises, it's easier to actually just, thinking. Now, thinking is arising, within this sitting body awareness. So that's why really the mindfulness of the body is really an important preliminary thing to develop. A lot of people, overlook that, but that's why I recommend it so much, because it is something you can develop, the ability to watch the body sort of in your mind. And then when a thought arises, you can much clearly see, thinking. Thinking is arising now. Or sound is arising now. You have that detached awareness. So if the first thing is to notice, thinking is arising now. And sometimes that's enough to make it go away. If your concentration and awareness is sharp enough, that thought may just vanish there and then, especially if you're tuning into impermanence and you notice something else. The mind doesn't have time to think about that object because there's something else you can notice. And that's the importance of tuning into the flow of impermanence. But anyway, coming back to this sutta. So, if that mindfulness doesn't work, in other words, you say thinking, you're hearing, but yet the mind still goes on thinking to the object, then this is where the Buddha starts with these sort of antidotes. So the first antidote is that the person should give attention to some other sign connected with what is wholesome, or a sign of the opposite value. So if you are clinging to this sign of beauty, let's say of a person, you're getting attached to their hair, or their eyes, or their skin, or just in general, or it could be anything else. But that's such a common one. But it's a good example that you ask yourself, why am I desiring this? Is it the hair that I like? Is it the skin I like? Is it the eyes that I like? Or is it the teeth that I like? And normally we say, oh, they got beautiful teeth, they got beautiful eyes. And so you're clinging to the mark of beauty. So instead you try to substitute that with seeing how these things are impermanent. And if it's the hair you like, you're attached to somebody's hair, pull out a few hairs from your head and put it on your eggs in the morning or in your oatmeal. Then would you like to, then you think that that's a beauty anymore? Or if you pull the hair out and just put it on a plate, are you going to get attached to that? Probably not. Or if you have you're attached to fingernails, peel off a piece of fingernail and put it down, and then see if you like that. So these are ways that we can reflect on the nature of how easy we get attached to, parts of the body, because we're focusing on these. We don't see the impure aspects of it. So you think of the opposite quality. So, and that is basically the thought of the impure. And even with food, if you're attached to that food, okay, only when things are whole and we see them kind of outside of ourselves and they're whole, then we get attached. So if you're attached to food, put food in your mouth, and then after 2 seconds, spit it back out on your plate and see if you want to put it back in your mouth, right? So, because the food instantly loses its beauty once it contacts the body, more or less. Or it's only very fleeting. It's very superficial, the way we get attached to things. So these are reflections. These are the way that the Buddha advised people to see the sign of what's called the impure. So that means understanding that all of these things that you're attached to, whether it's the human body or it's food or it's any other thing in beauty, flowers, like these flowers up on the altar, right? They're nice, but every day I can see how they're wilting and decaying and petals are falling off. So it helps you to kind of weaken that strong attachment that you're having to the object that you were, thinking about. So that is the meaning of that first method of overcoming the distracting thought. So you do that in meditation as it arises. First, you try to be mindful, just seeing, hearing. But if the mind keeps going back to it over and over again, then that's when you need to apply this reality check. You could call it a reality check to see the impure, contemplate the impermanence, how these things are just skin deep. The old saying, right? Beauty is only skin deep, right? So if you could see somebody with X-ray vision and see under the skin with just blood and veins and muscle tissue and also the smells that are going on inside the body and so on, you're not going to have that kind of attachment. And so if a person could actually have X-ray vision and see through the skin and go underneath the skin, then your ideas of beauty and attachment would, cease. So, but it's very difficult to get people to do that because of course, the mind is not trained for it. So, but these are, this is one of the first, what I call the defensive line, the first defense to the hindrances. And it's a strategy to outmaneuver or counter the lifetime of craving for sensual pleasures and getting so attached to beauty, because the society programs it that way, You see one person and then somebody says, oh, that person is more beautiful. And then this other person is more beautiful. And this and this and that. So we've been programmed since a young child to believe in these different ideas about beauty. And then the mind gets obsessed to it. But it also could be the opposite. So if you have a sign of the, so anyway, contemplating the impermanence, decay, and death of all these objects that you get attached to. While you're doing that, it says, while you are contemplating that other sign, then those thoughts connected with desire, aversion, or delusion will cease, or at least get weak enough that you can kind of let go of them and come back to your meditation subject, and then continue to develop your mindfulness and concentration. So that is the first one of these steps. Now, does anybody have any questions about that particular step of that? Has anybody tried these steps already and found them to be useful or not useful?
I have early on.
Who's that, Michael?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was first beginning to meditate, if something was unwholesome, I would think of something wholesome just to overcome it. So any distracting thoughts, you would focus on something wholesome to bring you back into balance and to keep you, or at least keep me focused when I'm doing.
For example, if you have a thought of anger toward a person that comes in your mind, then instead of cultivating the anger, you would then cultivate metta toward that person.
Yes.
Yeah. So, did somebody else had a question? Damon, did you have a hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to know, how is this different than, what they taught me in Christian Sunday school, where they said, when you're thinking sinful thoughts, just change your thoughts to godly thoughts.
That would be, I would say, a valid technique from that, from the Christian perspective, yes. Because whatever you think about, that's what's going to develop in your mind. And whatever you think about, that's going to lead eventually to more thoughts about it, and then eventually some action about it. Like going out and stealing something or abusing some person, actually creating the karma based on that strong belief that this thing is pleasurable or painful. So we have to reflect that. And actually, that's the next one. The next, the second step that the Buddha was advising. So maybe that doesn't work. Let's say you tried it, you tried, seeing that person with X-ray vision or whatever, you tried sending metta to the person, but the anger keep coming back. They keep coming back. Okay, then he said, then if while they are giving to some other sign, and there still arises in him evil, unwholesome thoughts, then you should examine the danger in those thoughts. So you would then reflect on the danger. And this comes from your past experience. You know, if you're really, the danger of like sensual pleasures is that it might cause you to, get addicted to some things, or it may cause you to actually break one of the precepts in order to get that object of your desire, or to get away from the object of, a person, your anger toward a person. And so, it's mainly the danger of breaking the precepts by holding that strong opinions toward these signs, the sign of either beauty or the sign of aversion or the sign of delusion. So even the belief in a self is a delusion, from the Buddhist point of view. But people cling to it so strongly, and they get on a power trip, and they think that they are more smart, or they're more beautiful, or they're more stronger or clever than others, and then that causes them also to do this negative thing. So that's an example of the delusion, being caught in delusion, the delusion of the self. Anyway, so you contemplate the dangers of whatever you want to do. Let's say you're planning to do something based on that, and you have to contemplate the dangers of it. Like, in order to get an object of your desire or aversion, you might contemplate telling a lie or stealing something. Then you have to contemplate the dangers of that. If you do that, then, maybe somebody's going to come looking for you, or you have guilt, worry, and remorse. So you have to contemplate that, and you have to be able to weigh the dangers. You see, that's the main thing. When we get consumed by our thoughts, everything else kind of gets blinded. And because, that's just the power of our thoughts and our strong attachment to those signs of beauty or aversion. And so you have to think, and go back in your own life and weigh. How many times did that desire or aversion lead to getting you in more trouble? Or what kind of pleasure did it actually bring compared to the amount of worry and other things connected with that? Maybe you were scheming for days and days to, get something that you wanted, and then finally you got it, and maybe you had to tell some lies to get it. Maybe you had to do something else, and then you got found out, and then maybe you got it, and the pleasure lasted only 5 or 10 minutes, or maybe 1 hour. But how many hours of suffering did you have to get on account of that? So this is part of that investigation of Dhamma, and contemplating the dangers of getting carried away in these things. So, it requires thinking. This is where you actually apply what's called right thought. This is part of right thought. The thought of non-sensual pleasure, the thought of non-greed, the thought of non-ill will, and the thought of non-harming. And these are thinkings. You actually think. Thinking's not bad. Thinking, there's a lot of good thoughts. That's why the Buddha talked about the right thought, the 3 kinds of right thought that he encouraged. Because the more you're thinking on the right thoughts, the less time you have to be thinking about the wrong thoughts. Okay, so anybody have any experience with, contemplating the dangers in the sensual pleasures, or, aversions, and that it brought you more suffering?
Yes, Bhante. It's really unique that you mentioned that, because during certain ends of the middle of the day, I usually rest, and I clear my mind and my thoughts, and then, be it like napping, but not completely sleeping. So today, this vision, came up in my head while I was still napping. And it was very, very dangerous. And I did exactly what you're talking about. I saw the danger in it. I analyzed it, and it was really like very, very creepy. But it had a structure to it that was two people. This door opened up, and I saw somebody running in that was very small and sort of hard to see what it was exactly. And I went through the door and I saw what I thought was my ex-wife with a friend of mine who could be dead at this point. And then I saw that it was changing. And it was a bad thinking, and it was dangerous because I felt very, very bad about it, And then when I finally reached that, all of a sudden this mind object, this nimitta, came into my head and studied, and as Buddha was saying, you're saying in this sutta. This incredible, very steady appeared of like an Irish.
But don't go into all the details. We don't have time to go into all the details of these things. Just want to. So the thought went away from your mind, right? You stopped entertaining it.
It's talking about like what actually happened at the time that shows that this is correct.
Yes. Okay. Okay, let's go on with the next one. So let's say you try that, but it still comes back again. Maybe you try it, and then you're able to come back to your breath, and then for another few minutes, maybe, but then that same thought, keeps coming back again. So the third step the Buddha recommends is that you try to forget those thoughts. And you forget those thoughts and do not give attention to them. Then those negative thoughts may go. So what does that mean, to forget those thoughts? I mean, evidently you can't forget them. They've been coming back over and over and over again. So the simile that the Buddha gives is, just as a person with good eyes did not want to see those forms, they would divert their eyes. So to look away at something else. And, don't give attention to them. So basically this is, you notice something else. And this is why mindfulness is very good, because when you train yourself in mindfulness, and especially to observe impermanence, there's always a lot of things coming and going through our mind. So you can always divert your attention. If an unwholesome thought comes up, feel the sensations in your big toe, feel the pleasant sensations in your hands, something like that. So you divert your attention, you look away from that particular thought to something that's pleasant, more pleasant than that one. Such as a sensation, or think about something else. So in that way, because things only keep our attention as we continually give our attention to the objects. And so by turning away from those objects, then the mind might then be able to come back and then get concentrated again. And then the next section is that while trying to forget those thoughts or attend to something else, again, they keep coming back. So otherwise, forgetting the thoughts didn't do you much good. Thinking of the opposite thought didn't help too much. Thinking about the danger of the thoughts didn't help. Trying to forget the thoughts didn't help. So the Buddha keeps giving these more defensive lines, like anybody who has been following the news, probably most of you haven't, but the news on the war in Ukraine, right? So Ukraine's army, Russia made all these defensive lines, many lines of defenses, many miles away from their front lines. And they kept breaking through that, first the minefields, and they broke through the line of those dragon teeth. Then they broke through the line of, some other things. And finally they, broke through all those using these different defenses. Anyway, I'm sorry if that analogy of the battlefield might upset some of you, but it's just a contemporary thing that's quite in the news. But anyway, but that's what we're up against. We're up against the enemy of greed, hatred, and delusion in our mind. So it takes a lot of, the Buddha devised these different ways of trying to deal with these thoughts. So the next one was stilling the thought formation of those thoughts. Now that's a little bit harder maybe to understand, but the Buddha gives some an analogy. If you are, walking and some negative thought comes in your mind, or you're walking, then just stop and stand. And if you're standing, sit down. Or if you sit down, lay down. But kind of what that means is that you can also trace back the thought and ask yourself, what triggered off this thought of sense desire in my mind? Then you say, well, I saw a picture. And then, well, why did that picture, trigger off that thought? And then you see, because I kept on looking at it in the past and developed this habit of being attracted to that. And then you can keep kind of tracing it back to, well, who likes the thought? Or who has this attraction or aversion? And you keep on breaking it down, in terms of the impermanence and also the no self aspect of it. To see, eventually where the nature of these thoughts came from, all the way back to when you were born. And when you started, learning language and you started creating habits. So you can contemplate these things, and this might produce an insight. Yeah, that's right. And the thought may go away. So anyway, you trace it back to, to the origin of those thoughts, and you see that most of them they're all based on other things that are impermanent and also no self. So this requires a kind of a deeper level of investigation, because as you're thinking that, the thoughts may disappear and you can come back. And then the last one, if they still keep coming back, the Buddha advises a person to clench their teeth, press their tongue up on the top of their roof of their mouth, and kind of just force those thoughts out of your mind. Now, sometimes that can work, actually. And he gives the example of, let's say, if a strong person was holding a weak person down, on the ground. That, you know, so that the strength of those, that pushing that thought out of the mind, it may work, but I don't really recommend that. That comes as a kind of a last resort, but sometimes it can work. But I would say that out of all these, the most important ones would be first line of defense is mindfulness, noting this negative, unwholesome intention or thought is arising, like the thought to tell a lie, a thought to do something, and see if that's not enough to drop it out. If it's not, then think of the opposite kind of thought. Instead of a negative thought, create a wholesome thought about it, or the opposite. And if that doesn't help, then reflect on the dangers of repeating these types of habits and thoughts, that it just keeps your mind spinning around, and you'll never gain any deeper level of meditation. So, and to learn and contemplate more of the Dhamma. And the Satipatthana Sutta, that's employing these. If you remember the Satipatthana Sutta, the foundations of the mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of feelings, mindfulness of thoughts, the Buddha has us understand, okay, this thought has arisen. Then understand, how does this thought arise? How does it continue to persist? And how does it cease? Or with any other type of, intention and so on. And then you analyze it by the ways that we've already, it arises through contact, and it arises because of the habits. They continue to persist because of the habits. And so only by decreasing those urges, by contemplating the dangers and also the benefits of developing concentration, little by little, you'll be able to weaken that momentum of those wandering thoughts. But it's not going to happen like right away. And it takes most people years and years of practice to really be able to develop that kind of freedom from those hindrances, where you actually are able to then abide in, one of the jhanic states, or the first jhana, but you can see those hindrances decreasing little by little. So those are the ways of trying to remove the distracting thoughts. But really, the most important one is the mindfulness, because the quicker you can note that thought arising and nip it in the bud, the easier it is going to be to apply those other antidotes, or for have it to just, vanish. Or make it easier to apply the other antidotes quicker, so that, because they're impermanent. It's only because we keep paying attention to it that, we continue to be disturbed by it. Now, even your pains and like itches and painful sensations on the body, those are a very good thing to start with. And so when you notice an itch arising, or a stinging sensation, biting sensation, some kind of pain, then, those are probably easier to observe than your thoughts. So you can start with that. And you start with learning how to detach and just say, okay, it's a painful feeling. And, how does this pain arise? Well, because muscle tissue and bones are pressing on each other and producing this friction and sensation, or due to some other reasons. These painful things are, I touched some poison ivy. In fact, the last couple of days I was doing some work. This is a true story. Last couple of days doing some work out in the yard, and I think I got some poison ivy on my my legs, and they're itching a lot. And so I really have to, apply. Even if I'm doing this, I got a lot of itches on the body from that poison ivy, and I'm having to exert that attention to it, and I'm distracting myself by, giving this Dhamma talk, so that helps me to, take my attention away from wanting to scratch those sensations. But anyway, so that was just an example. So learning how to observe sensations, those are probably a very good starting point for learning how to detach and observe things without giving in to, reacting to them. Okay, friends. So is there any last questions to any of those? You have to keep the questions short because we want to go on to our other practice, but anybody have a last question to any of those? Now, I just want to, before I forget it, next Wednesday, there won't be this Wednesday Zoom program because I'm going to Bhavana Society Meditation Center in West Virginia next Wednesday to start a weekend retreat that starts on Wednesday evening. So this next week from today, next Wednesday, there won't be a Wednesday class. So you might mark that down. So you'll remember that, but I'll send out a reminder of that on probably hopefully on next Monday's news mailing that I send out. All right. So, okay, if there's no questions, then take a few minutes break and then come back, do some yoga stretches, and then have our meditation. Okay. See you back in a few minutes. Okay, friends, try to stand straight. Relax your shoulders and arms. Gently close your eyes. Feel the outline of the standing body. Can't feel the outline, at least feel your feet pressing the floor. Feel as much of the body as you can, the arms at the sides, the head on the top. And then begin some deep, slow breathing. 3 or 4 seconds to expand the abdomen, rib cage, and upper chest. Hold the air in the lungs 2 or 3 seconds. Oxygen, enough time to get into the bloodstream, and slowly breathe out. Feel the last bit of air go out of the lungs. Take a few more deep breaths like that. Developing this mindfulness. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, standing here and now. Breathing in, feeling the whole body. Breathing out, feeling the whole body. Now we'll begin these movements, coordinating the breathing with these movements. So on the next in-breath, raise the arms over the head, interlock the fingers, turn the palms up, straighten your arms, stretch your head back, look at the back of your hand, stretch upwards, feel some sensation. Out breath, turn the palms down, touch the top of your head. Next in-breath, palms up, straighten the arms, stretch up, and bend back a little, look up, feel the arch in the spine. Out breath, touch the top of the head. Once more, in-breath, hold the upward stretch longer, and bend back a little more. Stretch upwards, backwards, feel the sensation. And release the fingers, the out breath, arms back to the sides. Feel the sensations in your hands and fingers. Gently close the eyes. Feel the outline of the body. Some sensations of your head, arms, or feet pressing the floor. The clothing touching the skin. All those are present moment sensation. You were itchy, irritating sensation. Just remember standing, standing, standing. Letting go of the thoughts. Let the thoughts come and go in the back of the mind. Keep the sensations of the standing body in the front of your Now on the next in-breath, lift up on the toes while raising the arms over the head in this way, facing the hands toward each other, and stretch up. On the out breath, come back down, arms to the side, heels to the floor. Use the in-breath to help lift up the body. Out. In. Out. Relax. Keep feeling the body. Feel the outline of the body in the mind's eye. And some sensations of remember standing. You don't have something positive to notice and feel. It's how the mind gets easily carried away in other unwholesome types of thought. Thinking this body is comprised of billions of cells, atoms, molecules, vibrating. Your next will be knee bending. On the in-breath, again, lift up on the toes and raise the arms up front for balance. On the out-breath, bend the knees and lower the body down, balancing on the balls of the feet. And come down to the squatting position. On an in-breath, feel the muscles in the legs pushing the body up. Up on the toes. Out breath. In. Out. In. The out breath, relax. Close the eyes. Feel the increased heart beating. The sensation of the clothing touching the skin. Remember standing. Ability to keep the mind remembering and feeling the body in the present moment. One of the actually most powerful ways of getting out of your thoughts. All the sensations of the body. It's strong. Help keep your mind out of thoughts, the past or future. Body is the anchor for our thoughts, mind for the present moment. Okay, now spread the feet, legs and feet apart about 3 feet. Bring the hands together at the chest. In the in-breath, raise the hands over the head. On the out-breath, lower the hands to the chest and then bend the knees, lower the body down, and keep the back upright. Feel stretch in your knees and hip. In-breath, push all the way up. Again, out-breath, lower down. Out. The out-breath. Close the eyes. Feel each foot pressing the floor. Feel the arms and hands hanging at the sides. Clothing touching the skin. Feel the head on top, the eyes and the socket. The outline of the whole body. You can now hold the arms out to the sides. And we'll do the twisting from right to left. And breathe in. On the out breath, twist to the right. Keep your eyes focused on the hand, more than back. In breath back to the front. And let your feet turn with the body and then twist to the other side, the out breath. And, keep alternating sides like that with the breathing. Once more to each side. Going back to the front, lower the arms, close the eyes, feel the outline of the body, each foot pressing the floor, hands touching the sides, clothing touching the skin, head on top, eyes and socket. Feel all those life force vibrations. So many different kinds of sensation, light sensation, strong sensation, pleasant sensation, unpleasant sensation. Makes you clean. All those sensations are just basically cells, molecules, atoms, vibrating, interacting, rubbing into each other, and producing all those sensations. Flesh, bone, blood. Keeping this body alive. Okay, now bring the legs back together. We'll do head turning. Standing straight on the in-breath, turn your head to the right. You look over your right shoulder, turn your eyes further to the right. See something further behind you. And the out-breath, turn the head 180 degrees back to the left. You look over the left shoulder. In-breath back to the right. Out-breath left. In right. Out left. Once more. Let the head stop in the center. The whole body. And do one last exercise. Backward and forward bendings. Just be careful with the back bends. Don't bend back too far the first time. Turn the palms outward. Touch the edges of the hands together. Now on the in-breath, raise the hands up. When the hands get up to your head, start spreading the arms apart, and then breathe out and bend backwards. And the out-breath. Look at the sea. Carefully lift up on the in-breath. You are shaking. On the out-breath, lower the arms and hands down towards the floor. The downward stretch to keep the legs straight. Touch the floor if you can. You stretch the leg muscles, also the little bones in the lower spine. Stretch out. Begin standing up. Turn the palms outward, in breath. The arms up. Out to the sides as you bend back. Out breath. In breath. Out breath, downward stretch. Up. Palms outward, in breath. Arms up. Out to the sides, out breath, then back. In breath, out breath, downward stretch. Third time to hold the downward stretch longer. The little bones in the lower spine stretch out. The spine joins the sacrum bone. Keep the knees straight, hips straight. And the in-breath, in, pulling the body up. Bring the hands together at the chest, in-breath. The out-breath, out back to the sides. Close the eyes, feel the whole body. Feel that increased aliveness. The body, activated life force sensations all over the body. Feel or imagine that you're standing on a vibrating machine. Feel those vibrations, head up, feet all the way up of the head. Points in between, touching the skin, subtle sensations under the skin, pulsation, tingling sensation, itchy sensation. Feel the outline of the whole body, present moment, body-centered awareness. First stage of the deeper meditation. Okay. Mindfully come back to our seats, ready for the sitting awareness. Turn that light up on in that hallway. Okay. Dear friends, just get comfortable in your sitting posture. Just try to sit straight. You align the back of your head and spine in a straight line. You find the center of gravity of the head and spine over your hips. Just lean back a little bit until you come to that, close to that tipping point where you could either go backwards or forwards. Keep the chin lifted up level with the floor. Just gently close your eyes. Try to feel your eyes in the sockets. Feel your head sitting on top of, just looking into the eyes, try to feel the outline of the sitting body, sense of the head on top, the arms at the sides, buttocks pressing the floor, feet pressing the floor underneath. Try to hold that outline of the sitting body in the mind's eye. And begin taking some deep, slow breaths like we were doing in the yoga session. Taking 3 or 4 seconds to breathe in, expanding your rib cage, abdomen, rib cage, and upper chest. Hold the air in the lungs for 2 or 3 seconds, and slowly breathe out. Or feel the last bit of air go out of the lung. Just take several more deep, slow breaths like that, developing this mindfulness. And breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, letting go of the past and future. Breathing out, sitting here and now. Breathing in, feeling the whole body. Breathing out, feeling the whole body. Now we're going to count our breaths from 1 to 10 to develop a more continuous concentration on the breathing. I'll do the counting for you. Just try to follow that one with your breathing and concentration. With the next expanding in breath, mentally count to 1. Hold the breath for a second. And with the contracting out breath, also count to 1. Feeling the last bit of air go out of the lung. The next in breath, 2. Out breath, 2. In 3. out 3, in 4, out 4, in 5, out 5, in 6, out 6, in 7, out 7, in 8, out 8, in 9, out 9, in 10, out 10, and now discontinue the counting, discontinue the control, deeper breathing. Let the breathing return to its uncontrolled, shorter, irregular rhythm. And keep feeling it. Keep your attention focused on the subtler movements of expanding and contracting the abdomen, rib cage, your chest. Make that the primary focus of your present moment attention, concentration. Just knowing when the breath is coming in and knowing when the breath is going out. Know it by feeling it. Feel the sensations of the clothing rubbing against the skin of your stomach, rib cage, your chest. It expands and contracts. You can use these mental reminders to keep the mind focused, remembering. In sitting, out, out, sitting, in sitting, out, out, sitting.
Using these mental reminders will help keep other useless thoughts from taking you away. Start to tune into the 4 phases of each breath cycle, the expanding in breath and the brief pause, the contracting out breath and the brief pause. Just over and over and over again. This breathing body is the natural connection to the present moment. In sitting, out, sitting, breath by breath, moment by moment. If you can't feel the breathing very easily, you can go back and take some deeper breaths to help stay more connected. Also, you can try counting your breaths from 1 to 10 by yourself. See if you can make it to 10 breaths without the mind getting lost in thoughts. Those techniques will help you minimize the momentum of your thought. In sitting, out, sitting. You can even combine those brief words with the counting. At the end of the in-breath, counting 1. At the end of the out-breath, counting 1, increasing the count. So those words and the counting helps to remember the present moment, not get lost in thoughts of the past and future. When thoughts enter the mind, quickly note it as a thinking. Just let go of the thoughts, stay with the breathing.
In, sitting. Out, out, sitting. Letting the thoughts come and go in the back of the mind. Keep the sensations of the breathing body in the front of the awareness. Be like a scientist looking down through a microscope. Observe all the subtle movements of the breathing process. If distracting thoughts keep coming back, and apply one of those antidotes for letting go of those thoughts. And one of them is just thinking about the breathing. Breathing in, sitting, breathing out, sitting. Feeling or imagine how the oxygen in the lungs get transferred to the bloodstream, carried out to the body to keep the body charged up with life force awareness. It's kind of the right thought, thinking about the Dhamma. Keep your mind out of other thoughts. Be able to make it to 10 breaths on the counting without the mind getting lost. And just continue counting, try to maintain that sort of outline of the sitting body in the mind's eye. Just keep that concentration on the breathing, feeling the breathing process within the larger sitting body. Especially being alert to the brief pauses between the breath. The pauses between the breaths is the link between the in-breath and the out-breath. Normally the mind wanders during that pause. If you're aware of the pause, then it will link to the next in-breath or out-breath. It's the way you develop continuous concentration. Feeling the other sensations coming and going in and through that breathing awareness. In sitting, out, sitting. Keep turning up the power of the mental microscope to notice more and subtler sensations in the breathing process, the other sensations in the body coming and going. Especially be alert for unpleasant or painful sensations, grabbing the attention. All those sensations are just cells, molecules, atoms interacting, rubbing into each other, producing sensation. Some pleasant sensation, some irritating sensation, neutral sensation. They're all constantly changing. The mind gets attracted to an unpleasant or sensation, such as a pain or an itch. You know, some sensation in your fingers or toes, more pleasant sensation. You forget about the unpleasant sensation. From time to time, take a few deep, slow breaths to help stay grounded, centered in the breathing body. Breathing going on, coming and going, middle, that breathing body, all the other sensations coming and going. Open up to the flow of impermanence. Notice how quickly sensations are coming and going, arising and vanishing. The more sensations you can notice coming and going, the less time for your mind to get lost in fantasies or other distracting thoughts. In breathing, sitting, out, sitting. So many different sensations coming and going, sounds coming and going, perceptions, thoughts coming and going, thoughts of I, me, or mine coming and going. These are all just a continual flow and change of five aggregates of the body and mind in their nature of impermanent. It's coming and going through the space of present moment, body-centered awareness. This breathing body is the lifeline to the present moment. If we lose that connection to the breathing body, the mind gets easily carried away, pulled under into our dark emotions and thought, confusion. When we stay connected to the breathing body, the mind just floats effortlessly from moment to moment without getting stuck or carried away with any particular object. And that's meditation. So what thoughts come into the mind based on that sound vibration? Sabbe sankhara anicchati yanda panyaya pasati atanibindati dukkhe esamango visuddhya. Dukkha patta ca dukkha bhaya patta ca nibbaya Soka pata jani soka hontu sabbe pipani no. All conditioned things, the five aggregates of this body, mind, and world are impermanent. They arise only to briefly last, then vanish. When one sees this with the eye of wisdom, one becomes disenchanted with suffering. This is the path to freedom. May the suffering be free from suffering. May the fear struck be free from fear. May the grieving be free from grief. In this way, may all beings live with mindfulness and wisdom. Thus spoke the Buddha. You finish this meditation, I invite you to join in chanting the word sadhu 3 times slowly. Chant the word sadhu on a long out breath. Try to feel those vibrations in the body and mind. So take a deep breath. Sadhu. Sadhu. Mindfully place your hands at the edge of your knees. And take one more deep, slow breath. As you breathe in, stretch your head back. Pull the knees against your hands on the knees to arch the spine. You lift the head up on an in-breath. On the out-breath, press the chin to the little notch at the top of your chest to stretch the neck vertebrae. Lift the head up level on an in-breath. Relax on the out-breath. Put a smile on your face. Okay, friends, so this brings our meditation session to an end. I hope you all had at least some short periods of some concentrated awareness, maybe being able to apply some of those antidotes to let go of any unnecessary thoughts. So as a reminder, again, next week we won't be having this Wednesday Zoom session because I will be gone out to the Bhavana Society for a 4-day retreat. On the title of that retreat is on the awareness of living and dying. Very important subject. Maybe some of you will be attending that retreat. I don't know, but
Yes.
anyway, we see you back on this program in at least in 2 weeks. Okay, so until then, be well, be safe, be mindful, be wise. Namo Buddhaya.
Good time.
Thank you, Bhante. Dhamma Buddhaya.
Thank you, Bhante.
You
Thank you.
thank you. Move,